In a quiet corner of the galaxy, far from the watchful eyes of the mighty Galactic Empire, humanity had been preparing for something big. For centuries, Earth's leaders worked in secret, building a fleet of warships so advanced that even the most powerful alien civilizations would be caught off guard. Hidden deep beneath layers of rock and steel, the ships were kept safe, waiting for the day they might be needed. The man in charge of this massive operation was Admiral Ryan Carter, a calm and clever strategist who believed in careful planning over reckless action. The Galactic Empire, on the other hand, was vast and dominant. Spanning thousands of star systems, it ruled with an iron fist, crushing any resistance it encountered. Its people lived under strict laws, and its military was unmatched in size and strength. Commander Lisa Hart, one of the Empire's most trusted officers, was known for her sharp mind and brutal efficiency. When strange energy readings began appearing near Earth, a planet the Empire considered primitive, she was sent to investigate. From her command ship, the Vanguard, Lisa studied the data coming in from her scout drones. At first glance, Earth seemed unremarkable. Its surface was covered with sprawling cities, lush forests, and vast oceans, but nothing indicated advanced technology or space travel. Still, the energy signatures couldn't be ignored. They pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat, coming from somewhere beneath the planet's crust. Curious, Lisa decided to send down more probes to get a closer look. But as soon as the probes entered Earth's atmosphere, everything changed. A shimmering shield suddenly enveloped the entire planet, blocking all attempts at scanning or communication. Moments later, small drone-like objects emerged from orbit. Though they looked harmless at first, these drones moved with incredible speed and precision, destroying the probes before they could gather any useful information. Back aboard the Vanguard, Lisa watched in disbelief as her carefully planned mission fell apart within minutes. On Earth, President Evelyn Monroe was already aware of the situation. She had been briefed by Admiral Carter, who explained that the Empire's presence was no coincidence. "They're testing us," he said, his voice steady but serious. "If we don't respond carefully, they'll know we've been hiding our true capabilities." After much debate, Monroe agreed to authorize a limited show of force. It wasn't time to reveal everything. Not yet, but Earth needed to make it clear that it wouldn't back down without a fight. Admiral Carter gave the order, and moments later, Earth's hidden fleet began to stir. Massive doors concealed beneath mountains and deserts slid open, revealing sleek, black warships bristling with weapons. These ships launched into space silently, their engines leaving barely a trace. Once in orbit, they formed a defensive perimeter around the planet, ready to confront the invaders. Lisa Hart stared at the screens in front of her, her jaw tightening as Earth's fleet appeared out of nowhere. Dozens of ships, each more advanced than anything she'd ever seen, now surrounded her own vessels. She hesitated, unsure of what to do next. Attacking would mean risking heavy losses, but retreating felt like admitting defeat. Finally, she made her decision. Through a secure channel, she transmitted a message to Earth. "Identify yourselves and surrender immediately, or face the consequences." Earth's response came quickly. Instead of words, they broadcasted footage of their fleet in action during simulated battles. The video showed their ships effortlessly outmaneuvering and overpowering opponents far larger than themselves. It was a warning, plain and simple. Lisa clenched her fists as she realized the magnitude of what she was dealing with. Whatever Earth was hiding, it was far greater than anyone in the Empire could have imagined. For now, the Empire's forces withdrew, but Lisa knew this was only the beginning. As her ships disappeared into the void of space, she couldn't shake the feeling that Earth had just declared war, not with weapons, but with silence. And that silence spoke louder than any battle cry. Commander Lisa Hart sat in the dimly lit command center of the Vanguard, her mind racing as she replayed the events of the past few hours. Earth, a planet the Empire had dismissed as primitive and insignificant, had just revealed a level of technology that defied all expectations. The sleek warships that emerged from orbit were unlike anything she had ever encountered. Silent, fast, and bristling with weapons that looked far more advanced than the Empire's own arsenal. It was clear now that Earth had been hiding something monumental, something that could tip the balance of power in the galaxy. Lisa knew she couldn't ignore what she had seen. She sent a detailed report back to Emperor Gregory Alden, describing Earth's unexpected display of strength. But even as she transmitted the data, she felt a gnawing sense of unease. The Empire prided itself on its dominance, on its ability to crush any opposition before it could grow into a real threat. Yet here was a planet that had managed to keep its secrets hidden for centuries, right under their noses. The thought unsettled her. If Earth could do this, who else might be out there, biding their time? Back on Earth, Admiral Ryan Carter stood in the control room of the secret command center, watching the monitors closely. He had anticipated the Empire's reaction after revealing part of their fleet, but he wasn't taking any chances. The shield around the planet remained active, and Earth's defenses were on high alert. President Evelyn Monroe joined him, her expression grave. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked, her voice steady, but tinged with concern. "They'll come back," Ryan replied without hesitation. "The Empire doesn't take threats lightly, especially not from a planet they consider beneath them. But we've bought ourselves some time. Now it's up to us to decide how to use it." Evelyn nodded, her gaze fixed on the screen showing the empty expanse of space where the Imperial ships had retreated. "We need to prepare for the worst," she said. "But we also need to understand what we're dealing with. What do we know about their leadership, their strategies?" Ryan turned to face her. "The Emperor is ruthless, but he's not reckless. He won't launch another attack until he's sure he can win. That gives us an opportunity to strike first, not directly, but at their supply lines. If we disrupt their resources, we can weaken them before they even reach us." Evelyn considered this for a moment, then gave a slow nod. "Make it happen," she said, "but choose your people carefully. This mission will require someone smart, someone who can adapt quickly." Ryan already had someone in mind. Captain Samantha Brooks, one of the youngest officers in Earth's fleet, had proven herself time and again with her quick thinking and fearless approach to danger. Though some questioned whether she was ready for such a critical assignment, Ryan believed in her abilities. He called her into the command center and briefed her on the plan. Infiltrate an Imperial outpost located near the edge of their territory, disable key infrastructure, and return without being detected. Samantha listened intently, her sharp eyes scanning the maps and schematics laid out before her. When Ryan finished speaking, she didn't hesitate. "I'll do it," she said firmly. "But I'll need complete autonomy. If I'm going to pull this off, I can't have anyone second-guessing me out there." Ryan agreed, trusting her instincts. Within hours, Samantha and a small team of highly trained operatives were preparing for the mission. They boarded a stealth ship designed specifically for covert operations, its black hull blending seamlessly with the darkness of space. As they launched into orbit, Samantha felt a mix of excitement and tension. She knew the stakes were high. If they failed, the Empire would learn too much about Earth's capabilities. But if they succeeded, they could buy humanity the time it desperately needed. Meanwhile, aboard the Vanguard, Lisa Hart was growing increasingly frustrated. Her superiors had ordered her to remain in the area and monitor Earth's activities, but so far, there had been no further signs of aggression. The planet's shield was still active, making it impossible to gather more intelligence. Lisa paced the command deck, her thoughts swirling. She couldn't shake the feeling that Earth was planning something, and whatever it was, it wouldn't wait for the Empire to make the next move. Samantha Brooks sat in the cockpit of the stealth ship, her fingers gliding over the controls as she guided the vessel toward the Imperial outpost. The mission was clear: disable the depot's power grid and fuel reserves, cutting off a vital supply line for the Empire's forces. It was risky, but Samantha had trained for moments like this her entire life. Her team consisted of 3 others, 2 engineers and a communications specialist, all chosen for their skills and ability to think quickly under pressure. As they approached the outpost, Samantha activated the ship's cloaking device. The sleek craft shimmered for a moment before disappearing entirely, blending into the cold void of space. The outpost itself was a sprawling complex orbiting a barren moon, its surface dotted with storage tanks, docking bays, and defensive turrets. From what Earth's intelligence had gathered, it served as a key refueling station for Imperial warships patrolling the region. Taking it offline would force the Empire to divert resources to repair it, buying Earth precious time. "All right," Samantha whispered to her team, her voice calm but firm. "Remember the plan. We go in quiet, do our job, and get out before anyone knows we're there. No heroics." The engineers nodded, checking their tools one last time. The communications specialist adjusted his headset, ensuring he could maintain contact with Earth's command center if needed. Samantha took a deep breath, then eased the ship closer to the outpost. Using the cover of darkness provided by the moon, she maneuvered the vessel into position near a maintenance hatch on the station's underside. Once they were close enough, Samantha deployed a small drone equipped with cutting tools. The drone floated silently toward the hatch, slicing through the metal with precision. Within minutes, an opening large enough for them to enter had been created. One by one, the team slipped inside, moving swiftly through the narrow corridors of the outpost. The air was cold and stale, and the hum of machinery echoed around them. Their first target was the power core, a massive reactor located deep within the station. If they could overload it temporarily, it would shut down the entire facility without causing permanent damage. The engineers worked quickly, attaching small devices to the reactor's control panel. Samantha kept watch, her eyes scanning the area for any sign of movement. So far, everything was quiet. But their luck didn't last long. As the engineers finished setting up the devices, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed, and heavy footsteps echoed in the distance. Someone, or something, had discovered their presence. "Move," Samantha hissed, her voice urgent. The engineers scrambled to activate the devices, while Samantha grabbed her weapon and positioned herself at the entrance to the room. Moments later, a group of Imperial soldiers appeared, their armor gleaming under the harsh red light. They opened fire immediately, forcing Samantha to duck behind cover. The firefight was intense but brief. Samantha's team managed to hold their ground long enough for the engineers to finish their work. With a final click, the reactor began to power down, plunging the outpost into darkness. The soldiers hesitated, their movements slowed by the sudden loss of light. Seizing the opportunity, Samantha signaled for her team to retreat. They moved quickly, retracing their steps back to the maintenance hatch. Along the way, they encountered another group of soldiers led by Lieutenant Daniel Hughes, a young officer whose face betrayed a mix of anger and confusion. He raised his weapon, shouting for them to stop, but something in his expression made Samantha pause. His hesitation gave her team just enough time to slip past him and disappear into the shadows. Back aboard the stealth ship, Samantha allowed herself a moment of relief as they prepared to leave. But she couldn't shake the image of Lieutenant Hughes's conflicted face. Something about him felt different. Little did she know, that encounter would have far-reaching consequences for both Earth and the Galactic Empire. When news of the sabotage reached Emperor Gregory Alden, his reaction was swift and furious. Sitting on his golden throne in the Imperial capital, he listened to Commander Lisa Hart's report with a scowl that deepened with every word. The destruction of the outpost had been a humiliating blow, not just to the Empire's resources, but to its reputation. For centuries, the Galactic Empire had ruled unchallenged, crushing any resistance before it could grow into a real threat. But now, Earth, a planet they had dismissed as primitive, had struck back, proving itself to be far more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. "This cannot stand," Alden growled, his voice low and sharp. "If we allow this insult to go unanswered, others will see weakness. They will rise against us. He leaned forward, his piercing eyes locking onto Lisa. "You will lead the invasion personally. I want Earth obliterated." Lisa swallowed hard but nodded. She knew better than to argue with the Emperor when he was in this kind of mood. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that attacking Earth directly would be a mistake. There was something about their tactics, their technology, that suggested they were holding back even more than they had shown. But questioning the Emperor's orders was a sure way to end up exiled, or worse. As preparations for the invasion began, Senator Laura Mitchell watched from the sidelines, her heart heavy with dread. A longtime critic of the Empire's expansionist policies, she had spent years arguing against the endless cycle of conquest and oppression. Now, as the Emperor called for war against Earth, she saw an opportunity to push back, not just against Alden's rule, but against the entire system that kept the Empire running on fear and violence. Laura gathered her allies in secret, calling a meeting in a dimly lit chamber deep within the Senate building. "We cannot let this happen," she said, her voice firm despite the tension in the room. "Attacking Earth will only lead to more bloodshed, more destruction. And for what? To satisfy the ego of a man who sees planets as nothing more than trophies." Her words resonated with many of the senators, especially those who had grown tired of Alden's tyranny. But not everyone was convinced. Some argued that opposing the Emperor openly would be suicide, while others worried about the consequences of rebellion. Laura listened patiently, addressing each concern with calm reasoning. By the end of the meeting, she had secured enough support to begin drafting a formal protest, one that would demand the invasion be halted until further investigation could take place. Meanwhile, aboard the damaged outpost, Lieutenant Daniel Hughes struggled with his own doubts. After letting Samantha Brooks and her team escape, he had faced harsh criticism from his superiors. His hesitation during the confrontation had been noted, and rumors of insubordination were spreading quickly. But Daniel didn't care about his career anymore. What haunted him was the look in Samantha's eyes. Determined, fearless, yet somehow human. It reminded him of why he had joined the Imperial fleet in the first place. To protect people, not destroy them. Late one night, unable to sleep, Daniel accessed the outpost's communication logs. He replayed the brief exchange with Samantha over and over, searching for answers. Something about her actions, and the precision of the sabotage, suggested Earth wasn't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for freedom. That thought sparked a dangerous idea in Daniel's mind. What if he could help them? Using encrypted channels, Daniel sent a message to Earth, offering his assistance in exchange for asylum. He knew the risks. If he was caught, his life would be forfeit. But he also knew he couldn't keep serving an empire that valued power over justice. To his surprise, Earth responded almost immediately. Admiral Ryan Carter himself handled the communication, promising protection if Daniel could provide valuable intelligence. As Daniel prepared to defect, the Empire's invasion fleet grew larger by the day. Thousands of ships, armed to the teeth, gathered at the edge of Imperial space, ready to descend upon Earth like a storm. Admiral Carter monitored their movements closely, knowing the battle ahead would test humanity's limits. But he also had a plan, one that depended on turning the Empire's own divisions against itself. In the shadows of the galaxy, alliances were shifting, loyalties were tested, and the stage was set for a conflict that would change everything. Earth had proven it could fight, but now it had to prove it could win. The Empire's invasion fleet moved like a dark cloud across the stars, its sheer size casting a shadow over every system it passed. Commander Lisa Hart stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Vanguard, her sharp eyes scanning the endless expanse of space. She had been given one mission: crush Earth and restore the Empire's dominance. But as the fleet approached the border worlds, Earth's outer colonies, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that this battle would be unlike any other. Earth's defenders were ready. Admiral Ryan Carter had spent weeks preparing for the inevitable clash, knowing the Empire wouldn't stop until they reached the heart of humanity's territory. The border worlds were Earth's first line of defense, and Carter wasn't about to let them fall without a fight. He assigned Captain Samantha Brooks to lead the defense of one of the most critical colonies, a small but strategically important outpost called Delta 7. Delta 7 was a rugged planet with sprawling plains and jagged mountains, its surface dotted with mining facilities and supply depots. Though it wasn't heavily populated, losing it would give the Empire a foothold dangerously close to Earth itself. Samantha arrived with a squadron of warships, each equipped with Earth's cutting-edge technology. Her orders were clear: hold the line at all costs. As the Imperial fleet entered orbit around Delta 7, the battle began. Dozens of massive dreadnoughts descended from the sky, their weapons blazing as they targeted the colony's defenses. Samantha watched from the cockpit of her fighter, her hands steady on the controls. "Stay sharp," she said to her team over the comms. "We've trained for this." The first wave of Imperial fighters surged forward, their movements precise but predictable. Samantha grinned as she activated her ship's advanced cloaking device, vanishing from sight just as the enemy closed in. Using the element of surprise, she darted between the Imperial ships, firing quick bursts of energy that disabled their engines. Her squadron followed suit, their coordinated attacks catching the invaders off guard. But the Empire wasn't easy to outmaneuver. Reinforcements poured in, overwhelming Samantha's forces. Explosions lit up the sky as ships on both sides were torn apart. Despite the chaos, Samantha remained calm, her focus unshaken. She spotted an Imperial dreadnought, a colossal ship bristling with cannons, at the center of the enemy formation. If she could take it out, it would cripple their advance. "I'm going in," she announced, her voice firm. Before anyone could protest, she broke away from the squadron and sped toward the dreadnought. The ship's defenses opened fire immediately, filling the space around her with deadly beams of energy. Samantha weaved through the barrage, her ship twisting and turning like a bird evading predators. Closer and closer she came, until finally, she was within range. With a deep breath, Samantha launched a volley of experimental missiles. The weapons streaked through space, homing in on the dreadnought's weak points. One by one, they struck, tearing through the ship's hull and igniting explosions that lit up the void. The dreadnought shuddered violently before breaking apart, its wreckage drifting into the darkness. The loss of the dreadnought sent shockwaves through the Imperial ranks. Their formation faltered, giving Samantha's squadron the opening they needed to push back. For the first time in the battle, the Empire's forces began to retreat. Samantha allowed herself a brief moment of triumph as she watched the enemy ships pull away, their once imposing fleet now scattered and weakened. Back aboard his command ship, Admiral Carter monitored the battle closely, pride swelling in his chest as reports of Samantha's success came in. Delta 7 had held, thanks to her bravery and skill. But Carter knew this was only the beginning. The Empire wouldn't give up so easily, and more battles lay ahead. As the dust settled on Delta 7, Samantha stepped out of her fighter, her body weary but her spirit unbroken. Her team gathered around her, cheering and patting her on the back. For now, they had won. But Samantha knew the war was far from over. The Empire would return, stronger and angrier than ever. And when it did, humanity would need to be ready. The destruction of the dreadnought at Delta 7 sent ripples through the Empire, but not all of them were felt on the battlefield. Back in the Imperial capital, Senator Laura Mitchell seized the moment to rally her allies. The loss had been humiliating for the Empire, and whispers of dissent were spreading among the Senate. Many questioned whether Emperor Alden's aggressive policies were worth the cost. Laura saw an opportunity to push harder, to turn those whispers into a roar. She called another meeting, this time in a grand hall within the Senate building. The room was packed with senators, some loyal to her cause, others curious but cautious. Laura stood at the center, her voice steady as she addressed the crowd. "The war against Earth is a mistake," she began. "We are bleeding resources, losing lives, and risking our stability. All for what? To conquer a planet that has already proven it can fight back. This madness must end." Her words struck a chord with many in the room. Some nodded in agreement, while others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. One senator, a man named Victor Cole, spoke up. "You're asking us to defy the Emperor himself. If we oppose him openly, he'll crush us." Laura turned to face him, her expression calm but firm. "And if we don't oppose him, who will?" The people are growing restless. They see the Empire weakening, and they're losing faith. If we don't act now, there may be no Empire left to save. Her argument swayed enough senators to move forward. Together, they drafted a formal declaration calling for an immediate halt to the invasion. It was a bold move, one that would put their lives at risk. But Laura believed it was worth it. As the document circulated among the Senate, tensions in the Capitol grew thicker by the day. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Daniel Hughes prepared to make his escape. He had gathered critical intelligence about the Empire's fleet movements and weaknesses, information that could give Earth a significant advantage. But getting it to them wouldn't be easy. The Empire's ships were on high alert, and defecting meant navigating a web of suspicion and paranoia. Daniel waited until the cover of night, slipping quietly through the corridors of the outpost where he was stationed. He carried a small data device tucked inside his uniform, its contents encrypted to prevent anyone from accessing it except Admiral Carter. As he reached the hangar bay, he encountered a patrol of soldiers. His heart raced, but he forced himself to stay calm. "Routine inspection," he said, flashing his credentials. The soldiers hesitated, but eventually let him pass. Once aboard a small transport ship, Daniel launched into space, setting a course for Earth. He knew the journey would be dangerous. Imperial patrols were everywhere, but he also knew he couldn't turn back. When he finally made contact with Earth's forces, Admiral Carter personally oversaw his extraction. A stealth ship met Daniel halfway, bringing him safely to Earth. Back on Earth, Carter debriefed Daniel, poring over the intelligence he had brought. The data revealed key vulnerabilities in the Empire's supply lines and communication networks. Carter immediately devised a plan to exploit these weaknesses, assigning intelligence officer Matthew Klein to work closely with Daniel. "You've done well," Carter told Daniel, his tone respectful. "Now let's use what you've given us to win this war." As preparations continued, the Empire's internal divisions deepened. Emperor Alden, furious about the Senate's declaration, ordered the arrest of Senator Mitchell and her allies. But instead of silencing them, his actions sparked outrage across the Empire. Protests erupted on multiple worlds, with citizens demanding peace and reform. For the first time in decades, the Empire's iron grip began to slip. On Earth, Samantha Brooks watched the news reports with quiet satisfaction. Humanity wasn't just fighting on the battlefield. It was winning the war of ideas. Still, she knew the hardest battles lay ahead. The Empire wouldn't fall easily, and every victory came at a cost. But as long as Earth stood united, she believed they could endure. In the shadows of the galaxy, alliances shifted, courage was tested, and the seeds of rebellion took root. The stage was set for a final confrontation, one that would decide the fate of both Earth and the Galactic Empire. The Empire's forces regrouped after their defeat at Delta 7, but Emperor Alden refused to accept failure. His anger burned like a fire, and he poured every available resource into the invasion fleet. Thousands of ships, armed with the deadliest weapons the Empire could produce, gathered near Earth's borders. The final assault was coming, and everyone knew it. On Earth, Admiral Ryan Carter prepared for the battle of a lifetime. He had spent months strengthening Earth's defenses, ensuring every soldier and ship was ready. But this wasn't just about firepower. It was about strategy. Using the intelligence provided by Lieutenant Daniel Hughes, Carter identified weak points in the Empire's fleet. He planned to strike those vulnerabilities hard, aiming to cripple their forces before they reach Earth itself. President Evelyn Monroe addressed the people of Earth in a live broadcast, her voice steady and inspiring. "We have faced challenges before, and we have always risen to meet them," she said. "Today, we fight not just for ourselves, but for the future of humanity. Stand strong, and know that you are not alone. As the Empire's fleet approached, Earth's hidden warships emerged from their bases once again. Hundreds of sleek vessels took position around the planet, forming a protective barrier. The sight was breathtaking. Even Commander Lisa Hart, watching from her flagship, couldn't help but feel a flicker of awe. She had underestimated Earth before, but now she understood the scale of what they were up against. The battle began with a massive wave of Imperial ships descending toward Earth's orbit. Laser beams and missiles filled the sky as both sides exchanged fire. Explosions lit up space, turning the void into a chaotic battlefield. Captain Samantha Brooks led her squadron with precision, weaving through enemy fighters and targeting their larger ships. Her skill and bravery inspired those around her, and her team fought fiercely to hold the line. Admiral Carter coordinated the defense from Earth's command center, his eyes scanning the monitors as reports poured in. The Empire's numbers were overwhelming, but Earth's technology gave them an edge. Ships equipped with advanced cloaking devices slipped past enemy lines, launching surprise attacks on key targets. Drones swarmed Imperial vessels, disabling their weapons and engines. Despite Earth's efforts, the Empire pushed forward relentlessly. Their massive dreadnoughts loomed closer, each one capable of destroying entire cities. Carter knew they couldn't hold out forever. "It's time," he said, giving the order to deploy Earth's secret weapon, a prototype energy cannon designed to disable multiple ships at once. The cannon fired a brilliant beam of light, cutting through the Imperial fleet like a knife. Dozens of ships were neutralized in seconds, forcing the invaders to retreat temporarily. But the victory came at a cost. Many of Earth's ships were damaged or destroyed, and casualties mounted on both sides. Samantha's squadron suffered heavy losses, and she felt the weight of every life lost. Still, she refused to give up. "We're still here," she told her remaining pilots over the comms. "And as long as we're breathing, we'll keep fighting." Back in the Empire, the cracks in its foundation grew wider. Senator Laura Mitchell's movement gained momentum, with more worlds joining the call for peace. Even some Imperial officers began questioning the Emperor's decisions. Lieutenant Daniel Hughes, now safely on Earth, worked tirelessly to spread propaganda among the Empire's ranks, sowing doubt and discord. As the battle raged on, humanity's resilience shone brighter than ever. Earth's defenders stood united, driven by hope and determination. They knew the Empire wouldn't stop until it was forced to, but they also knew something the Emperor didn't. Earth wasn't just fighting to survive. It was fighting to inspire. Across the galaxy, oppressed peoples watched the battle unfold, daring to dream of freedom for the first time in generations. The war was far from over, but the tide was beginning to turn. The battle for Earth's survival raged on, and the cost of war became clearer with each passing hour. Ships on both sides were destroyed, their wreckage drifting silently through space. Soldiers fought bravely, but lives were lost, human and Imperial alike. Amid the chaos, humanity's unity was its greatest strength. Back on Earth, cities came together to support the war effort, building new ships, repairing damaged ones, and caring for the wounded. President Evelyn Monroe visited hospitals and factories, thanking the people for their sacrifices. "We are one," she told them, "and together we will win." Admiral Ryan Carter knew the Empire wouldn't give up easily. Despite their losses, the Imperial fleet kept coming, wave after wave of ships descending upon Earth. Carter studied the battlefield carefully, looking for ways to turn the tide. He relied heavily on Lieutenant Daniel Hughes' intelligence, which revealed critical weaknesses in the Empire's command structure. One name stood out: Commander Lisa Hart. She was a skilled leader, but her loyalty to the Emperor had begun to waver. Carter saw an opportunity. He ordered Captain Samantha Brooks to lead a daring mission. Her task was clear: capture Commander Hart alive. If they could convince her to defect, or at least create doubt among the Empire's ranks, it might weaken their resolve. Samantha accepted the mission without hesitation, knowing it would be dangerous but necessary. She gathered her best pilots and prepared for the operation. Under cover of darkness, Samantha's squadron launched from Earth's orbit. Using stealth technology, they slipped past the Imperial fleet and located Hart's flagship, the Vanguard. The ship was heavily guarded, but Samantha had a plan. She led her team in a swift strike, disabling the Vanguard's engines and boarding the vessel before the crew could react. Inside, they moved quickly, taking down soldiers and securing key areas. Samantha found Lisa Hart in the command center, surrounded by her officers. Hart raised her weapon, her expression fierce. "You'll never take me alive," she said, her voice cold. But Samantha didn't fire back. Instead, she lowered her weapon and stepped forward. "We don't want to kill you," Samantha replied calmly. "We just want you to see the truth." The truth was simple. Earth wasn't fighting for conquest or revenge. It was fighting for freedom. Samantha showed Hart footage of the protests spreading across the Empire, of citizens rising up against Emperor Alden's tyranny. Hart watched silently, her confidence wavering. For the first time, she questioned whether she was on the right side. Meanwhile, Senator Laura Mitchell's movement reached a boiling point. With support from across the galaxy, she called for an emergency session of the Senate. Standing before her fellow senators, she delivered a powerful speech. "The Empire is built on fear and control," she said, "but fear cannot hold us forever. It's time to stand with those who seek peace, and that includes Earth." Her words ignited a rebellion within the Empire. Imperial officers began questioning orders, and entire star systems declared independence. Back on Earth, Lieutenant Daniel Hughes worked tirelessly to amplify the message, broadcasting speeches and rallying cries across the galaxy. Humanity's fight was no longer just about survival. It had become a symbol of hope. Emperor Alden responded with brutal force, ordering crackdowns on rebellious worlds. But his actions only fueled the flames of dissent. Even some of his closest allies began to turn against him. The empire he had spent decades building was crumbling under the weight of its own oppression. As Samantha returned to Earth with Lisa Hart as a prisoner, Admiral Carter met them personally. "Welcome aboard," he said to Hart, his tone calm but firm. "You have a choice to make. Join us, or watch your empire fall." Hart didn't respond immediately. She stared at the screens showing the chaos spreading across the empire, her mind racing. Whatever decision she made, one thing was certain: the war was changing. The Empire's grip on the galaxy was slipping, and Earth's defenders were ready to strike the final blow. The final days of the war were marked by chaos and courage. Earth's defenders, though battered, stood firm against the Empire's relentless assault. Admiral Ryan Carter knew the time had come to end the conflict once and for all. With Commander Lisa Hart now in custody and the Empire fracturing from within, he devised a bold plan: launch a direct attack on the Imperial capital itself. It was a risky move, but if successful, it could bring Emperor Alden to his knees. President Evelyn Monroe approved the plan, though not without hesitation. "This is our best chance," she told Carter during a private meeting. "But we must be ready for the cost." Carter nodded, understanding the weight of her words. He gathered Earth's remaining fleet, including Captain Samantha Brooks and her squadron, and prepared for the journey to the heart of the Empire. As Earth's ships approached the capital, they encountered heavy resistance. The Empire's forces were still formidable, and the battle that followed was fierce. Laser fire and explosions filled space, lighting up the darkness like a violent storm. Samantha led her pilots with unmatched skill, weaving through enemy fighters and targeting their larger ships. Her bravery inspired those around her, and her team fought with everything they had. Inside the Imperial Palace, Emperor Alden watched the battle unfold with growing rage. His once mighty empire was crumbling, and he refused to accept defeat. "Send everything we have," he ordered his generals. "I will not let them take this world." But even as he spoke, the rebellion within the empire reached its peak. Senator Laura Mitchell and her allies seized control of key government buildings, declaring their independence from Alden's rule. Imperial officers who had once been loyal began defecting, joining the fight against the Emperor. The capital itself descended into chaos, with citizens taking to the streets to demand peace. Amid the turmoil, Commander Lisa Hart made her decision. She agreed to help Earth, using her knowledge of the Empire's defenses to guide the attack. From aboard Carter's flagship, she provided critical information that allowed Earth's fleet to bypass the capital's shields and strike at its core. "This is your chance," Hart said over the comms. "Take it." With Hart's assistance, Earth's forces launched a concentrated assault on the Imperial Palace. The building shook as missiles struck its foundations, and explosions tore through its walls. Emperor Alden, cornered and desperate, tried to escape but was captured by rebel forces. His reign of terror was over. Back on Earth, the news of Alden's capture spread quickly, sparking celebrations across the planet. People poured into the streets, cheering and embracing one another. President Monroe addressed the crowd from the steps of the Capitol building. "Today, we stand united, not just as humans, but as free beings," she said. "This victory belongs to all of us." Admiral Carter watched the celebrations from the command center, his expression a mix of pride and exhaustion. The war had been long and costly, but humanity had endured. Samantha Brooks joined him, her face showing the scars of battle, but also a glimmer of hope. "We did it," she said softly. Carter nodded. "Yes, we did. But the galaxy is still healing. Our work isn't over yet." Senator Laura Mitchell, now leading the effort to rebuild the Empire, sent a message of gratitude to Earth. "You've shown us what courage looks like," she said. "Together, we can build a better future." As the galaxy began to recover, humanity took its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as equals. The war had changed everything, but it had also proven one thing. Even in the darkest times, hope could light the way. The war was over, but the galaxy would never be the same. Earth's victory had sent shockwaves through every corner of the Milky Way, proving that even the mightiest empires could fall if they stood against freedom and unity. In the weeks that followed, humanity began to rebuild, not just their own world, but also the fractured systems left behind by the Empire's collapse. Senator Laura Mitchell took on the monumental task of reforming the Galactic Empire. With Alden gone, she worked tirelessly to dismantle its oppressive structures and replace them with a new system based on cooperation and justice. It wasn't easy. Many worlds were still scared by decades of tyranny, and trust had to be earned slowly. But Laura's determination inspired others to join her cause. Together, they drafted a charter for a united galactic council, where all planets, big or small, would have a voice. Back on Earth, President Evelyn Monroe addressed her people one final time before stepping down from office. Her leadership during the war had been unwavering, and she knew it was time for fresh minds to guide humanity into this new era. "We've shown the galaxy what we're capable of," she said in her farewell speech. "But our greatest challenge lies ahead, building bridges instead of walls. Let us remember that peace is not given, it is made." Admiral Ryan Carter retired from active duty, though his legacy lived on. He spent his days mentoring young officers, teaching them the lessons he learned during the war. "Strength isn't about weapons," he often told them. "It's about standing together when times are tough." His calm wisdom became a guiding light for Earth's next generation of leaders. Captain Samantha Brooks found herself at the center of a different kind of mission. As humanity reached out to other civilizations, she was chosen to lead diplomatic efforts. Her bravery in battle had earned her respect across the galaxy, and now she used that influence to foster alliances. Traveling from planet to planet, Samantha listened to the stories of those who had suffered under the Empire and offered Earth's support in rebuilding. She carried a message of hope wherever she went, reminding everyone that no world was alone anymore. Commander Lisa Hart, once an enemy of Earth, chose to stay and help. Though some distrusted her at first, her knowledge of the Empire's systems proved invaluable in dismantling its remnants. Over time, she earned forgiveness, not just from others, but from herself. I spent my life serving the wrong side, she admitted to Samantha one day. Now I want to make up for it. As the years passed, Earth flourished. Its cities grew brighter, its people prouder. The scars of war remained, but they served as reminders of what had been overcome. Humanity's place among the stars was secure, not because of its power, but because of its resilience and compassion. One evening, Samantha stood aboard a ship heading toward a distant star system. She gazed out at the endless expanse of space, her heart filled with both pride and humility. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and challenges yet unseen. But Earth had proven it could face anything as long as it stood united. In the end, the story of Earth's secret war fleet wasn't just about battles won or enemies defeated. It was about hope. The kind that rises from ashes, that dares to dream of a better tomorrow. And as humanity looked to the stars, ready to explore new horizons, one truth shone clear. The best stories are written not by swords, but by hearts brave enough to believe in peace.